She pointed a gun at him the first time they met. And somehow, that moment changed everything. In a land where survival is harsh and trust is rare, two stubborn souls collide, one running from expectations, the other rooted in a life he built with his own hands. But fate has its own plans. What begins as resistance slowly turns into something neither of them can deny. Stay until the end, because this isn't just a story about the Wild West. It's about a love that rises from fire and refuses to fade.
The sun was getting lower. The man on the horse just shifted. Name's James Jim Harrison. My ranch is about 8 miles that way. I saw the dust you kicked up. I don't need help. That busted wheel says you do, ma'am. She clenched her jaw. The spoke was snapped clean in two. She'd wrestled with it for hours, leaving her hands raw and her pride in tatters. I can handle it. James just nodded, his head slow. I reckon you could. But can you handle it when the sun is gone, the air gets cold, and the wolves come out to sing? There are no wolves, she snapped. Just then a long howl cut through the quiet. See what I mean? His horse stepped forward on its own. Now I'm getting down real slow. You can keep that gun on me, but I swear I mean you no harm. He swung off that horse like he was born on it. He was a big fella, built solid, with dust on his clothes and a scar through one eyebrow. Not a fancy man from back east, that was for sure. He walked over to the wheel, giving her plenty of room. Headed to Silver Creek, he asked. Only reason to be on this road. Town's another 15 miles. You won't make it tonight, not like this. He knelt down. This was no accident. The spoke was sawed partway through. Someone wanted you stranded. He looked her right in the eye. You got enemies, Miss Reed? No, I don't. But then she remembered the telegram she got 3 days back. It said, "Don't come. We don't want your kind here." She had thought it was just some backwards nonsense. Now the pistol felt slick in her hand. Miss Reed, I'm going to stand. We need to get you to a safe place. I can shoot you just fine from here. Yeah, I figured that much. A little smile played on his lips. But you can't fix that wheel, and you sure as heck can't fight off whoever did this to you. His words stung because they were true. She hated feeling helpless after coming all this way. Why in the world should I trust you? You shouldn't. You don't know me. But I know you're smart, stubborn, and scared, though you hide it well. And that tells me you know when you're beat. He let that hang in the air. Tonight, you're beat. My ranch is an hour from here. My housekeeper, Mrs. Hernandez, would have my hide if I left you here. You get a warm meal and a bed for the night. Come morning, I'll drive you to Silver Creek myself. And what do you want for it? His face got serious. I want you to point that gun somewhere else before it goes off. Other than that, not a thing. She looked him over, searching for the trick. Men always had a trick. But his gaze was straight. And another howl, closer this time, made up her mind. She lowered the pistol, just for one night. And I'm sleeping with this thing loaded. I wouldn't expect anything less. He went to his horse and grabbed some rope to tie down her belongings. She'd only brought books, supplies, and the memory of her father's face when she told him she was leaving for Montana. You're looking for hardship, he'd told her. That's right, she'd said. Now, with a broken wagon and the dark settling in, hardship seemed like a mighty small word for it. All set, James said. He had her trunks tied down and offered her a hand up. She ignored it. She climbed onto the horse herself. It wasn't graceful, but it was a small win. James got on behind her, his presence a solid warmth at her back. Might want to lean back. The trail gets bumpy. I'm fine, she said, her back straight as a board. They rode on without a word for about 15 minutes. The big open sky made her feel tiny. Back home, the buildings kept you boxed in. Out here, there was just you and the wilderness. You're the new school teacher, he said, breaking the silence. How'd you know? Little town. Word gets around when someone new is coming, especially a woman from the east traveling all alone. I'm not afraid of being alone. I didn't say you were. Said you were willing. Big difference. Most folks out here are running from something. What are you running from, Miss Reed? Her hands tightened on the gun. That's my business. Fair enough. A while later he said, Mrs. Hernandez is going to ask questions. She's a protective soul. What are you going to tell her? The truth. I found a lady whose coach was sabotaged, and I offered her a safe place to stay. Unless you got a different story. The truth is fine, she said, her voice barely a whisper. Mr. Harrison, when we get there, I need to send a telegram. Lines are down. A storm knocked them out 3 days ago. Won't be up for a week. Elizabeth's heart sank. Then how will they know? You'll show up tomorrow and tell them what happened? Simple. But nothing was simple. Her whole well-laid plan was now in pieces, just like her wagon wheel. I don't like it when my plans change. James let out a low laugh. Then you picked the wrong place to live, Miss Reed. Out here, a plan is just a nice thought you have before the day gets started. Just as the sun was dipping below the hills, the ranch came into view. She'd pictured a small cabin. Instead, a huge 2-story log house stood there with a big porch and windows glowing in the last light. In the fading light, she saw a big barn, a bunkhouse, and other buildings. This is it, James said. Took me and 30 hands 6 years to build. He led the horse to the main house. It ain't back east, but it's home. A small, dark-haired woman came out, her face hard as stone. James Jim Harrison, you are 2 hours late. This supper is tougher than boot leather. Sorry, Maria, we had a setback. He swung down and helped Elizabeth, whose legs gave out. He caught her steady. Maria saw Elizabeth's torn dress, and her whole manner changed. Get her inside. Put her things in the guest room. And do not you dare track mud on my floors. Yes, ma'am, the big rancher mumbled. Maria led Elizabeth into a beautiful room with a huge stone fireplace and a wall full of old leather-bound books. You read? Elizabeth blurted out. Maria glanced at the books. Mr. Harrison sets great store by them. Says a man who does not read does not think. She led Elizabeth upstairs. Child, you look worn to a frazzle. When did you eat last? Bread this morning. Not enough. You will wash up, then eat my stew and biscuits, 2 helpings at least. The room upstairs was huge, with a copper tub waiting. Maria was already yelling for hot water. Ma'am, I do not mean to be a bother. Hush now, the bother has already happened. We are just setting it right. Her eyes softened. James told me about your wheel, said it was cut on purpose. Elizabeth just nodded, her throat tight. Well, you are safer here. Our 8 ranch hands would see to that. 2 young hands brought buckets of hot water, then scrambled away like they had seen a ghost. Maria chuckled. They are not used to ladies. You are going to turn some heads, Miss Reed. I am here to teach, not cause a stir. Out here, that is the same thing, Maria said from the door. I will bring your supper up in 30 minutes. You take your time in that bath. Alone, Elizabeth sank into the hot water and finally let herself cry. She wept for her foolish plan, thinking her education mattered out here. This land nearly killed her in one afternoon. A knock startled her. It is just me, Maria called. Your dinner is outside the door. And Miss Reed, welcome to the Harrison Ranch. You are safe. Elizabeth held on to that word. Safe. She had not felt that in a long time. She ate the rich stew and warm biscuits every bite. Outside, lanterns lit the ranch yard as men finished their chores. She saw James's silhouette in the barn, moving with a confidence that said he belonged here. She was running from the life picked for her back east and running toward a chance to matter. The smell of strong coffee woke her. She dressed and went down to a busy kitchen where Maria was in charge. James sat at the table reading a paper. Morning, Miss Reed. Sleep all right? Better than I thought. Maria handed her a cup of coffee. Thank you for your kindness, Mr. Harrison, but I need to get to Silver Creek. Figured as much. We will leave after breakfast. It is a 3-hour ride. Elizabeth was surprised by how quickly he had arranged it. I do not hold folks against their will, he said, folding his paper. Just know that folks in town will talk about where you spent the night. Let them. I have nothing to hide. I did not say you did. But a reputation is a delicate thing in a small town. She straightened up. I will tell the truth. I was stranded. You helped. If that is a problem for someone, it is their problem. A slow grin spread on James's face. I believe you mean that. Why should not I? I came to teach children, not to please gossips. If the town has a problem with me, they can find another teacher. His grin widened. You will do just fine, Miss Reed. Maria set a plate down. Eat up. And James, quit pestering our guest. I am not pestering, I am admiring, he said, and Maria just smiled. They ate quietly, and Elizabeth felt herself relax. After breakfast, Elizabeth said her goodbyes to Maria. You come on back if you need a thing, the woman said, and do not you mind the townfolk. You will learn. On the wagon ride, James was easy company, telling stories about the land. He told one about a bear that wandered into the general store and was coaxed out with honey. The store owner, old Sam, still will not stock honey, says it is cursed. That is ridiculous. That is Silver Creek, James said. My advice? Pick your battles. You will know which ones matter. They are the ones that set a fire in your gut you cannot put out. Teaching those children, that is a fire. Folks gossiping about you, that is just smoke. Let the wind take it. Model away. Elizabeth mulled that over. You are more thoughtful than you appear, Mr. Harrison. I do read, he said with a grin, but keep that under your hat. It could ruin my standing as a simple rancher. Your secret is safe. When they reached the top of a hill, Silver Creek appeared below. It was just one main street, smaller than she pictured, with a church steeple poking at the sky. Wagons and folks on horseback filled the road. This was her new home. Her stomach churned with a mix of fear and excitement. James asked, You ready? She squared her shoulders. Ready? As they rolled into town, every head turned to watch. She felt their stares and heard the whispers as they moved down the street. James steered the wagon to a simple building with a freshly painted sign that read, School. A tall, skinny man with a sour look stood on the porch. He watched them with clear disapproval. James spoke low. That is Reverend Grayson, head of the school board. He is a bit of a stick in the mud. The Reverend walked down the steps as they stopped, his scowl deepening. Miss Reed, I suppose. We looked for you yesterday. I had some trouble with my stagecoach, Reverend. The wheel was broken on purpose. Mr. Harrison was good enough to help me. Broken on purpose. Grayson's voice dripped with disbelief. How very handy. James's jaw clenched, but he stayed quiet. Elizabeth felt her own temper flare. Handy would have been arriving when I was supposed to, Reverend. Being stuck in the wild was not convenient at all. She hopped down from the wagon by herself. Now, if you would point me to my rooms, I need to get ready for my classes. He sputtered, but she cut him off. Good. I have a lot of work to do. She turned to James. Thank you again, Mr. Harrison, and please thank Mrs. Hernandez for me. James tipped his hat, a question in his eyes. My pleasure, Miss Reed. I will see you around, I am sure of it. She grabbed her skirts and marched right up the school steps, leaving the two men watching her. Once inside, she finally let out a breath. The schoolhouse was just rows of benches and a worn-out chalkboard. Dust was everywhere, but there were books on the shelves. This place was hers, her own classroom, her new start. Elizabeth Reed was finally in Silver Creek. Now the hard part would begin. She surely did not expect the children to be there before sunrise, but they were. 7 of them were sitting on the steps when she opened the door. The oldest looked to be about 12, the youngest just 5. They watched her with a look of both hope and mistrust. School does not start until 8 o'clock, Elizabeth said. We know, the oldest boy answered. Pa said we have to get here early, or all the seats will be taken. He said there are too many of us for one teacher. Elizabeth counted them again. 7 children. Just how many students are coming? 43, ma'am. Or thereabouts. 43. The school board had only mentioned 20. Her plans started to fall apart, but she kept her face calm. What is your name? Thomas Yates. This is my sister Mary and my brother Jacob. He pointed to the others. Those are the Chen twins, Lynn and May, and that is Emma with her brother Peter. Well, Thomas Yates, you all can help me set up the benches. If we are going to have 43 students, we will need all the room we can get. The boy's eyes went wide. You're not sending us home? Why would I do that? You're here to learn. She held the door wide open for them. Now let us get started. They moved like they had been waiting for someone to finally say yes. Thomas told the older children where to move the heavy benches. The Chen twins worked together, talking in quick Cantonese that made Elizabeth smile. Emma kept her little brother Peter close, telling him what to do in Polish-accented English. Miss Reed. Mary Yates looked up from her sweeping. Is it true you are from Boston? It is. Did you travel all this way by yourself? Elizabeth remembered James and the broken wheel. Not all by myself, but I came because I believe every child should get to learn. Even us? Lin Chen asked so quietly Elizabeth nearly missed it. Especially you. By 8 o'clock, the schoolhouse looked brand new. Benches were in tight lines and the chalkboard was clean. The first 7 children sat right up front. Soon, families started to arrive, first one by one, then in groups. By 8:30, the room was full. Elizabeth counted 41 students, from 5 to 16 years old. Reverend Grayson stood in the doorway looking annoyed. Miss Reed, this is not right. The board only gave us money for 20 students, not this. Then the board should have counted better, Elizabeth said, her voice firm but sweet. These children came here for an education, and I'm going to give them one. We will make the budget work. She walked past him to face the class. Good morning, students. My name is Miss Reed. Grayson was fuming behind her, but she paid him no mind. The children just stared back. She picked up some chalk. What did you all learn last year? The room was silent. Then Thomas raised his hand. We did not have a school last year, ma'am. The teacher left after 2 months. Why? He said we were unteachable. Thomas's voice was flat, but Elizabeth could hear the pain in it. He said Western children were too wild to be taught. Elizabeth put the chalk down. That teacher was wrong. You are not unteachable. You just had not met the right teacher yet. She looked around the room. How many of you can read? 5 older students raised their hands. How many of you want to learn? Every single hand went up. Then we will start right now. Thomas, you and the others who can read will help the younger ones. Mary, I need you to. The door flew open. A woman charged in, her face red with anger. You have some nerve, Miss Reed. My husband said you stayed the night at James Jim Harrison's ranch, all alone. And now you stand there to teach our children? Elizabeth's heart sank, but she stayed perfectly still. Mrs. Henderson. Sarah Henderson. And I want to know what kind of woman does that. The kind who was left in the wilderness with a broken wagon, Elizabeth's voice cut through the room. The kind who took help from a good man instead of sleeping outside alone. The kind of woman who cares more about surviving than what people think. She took a breath. Now, Mrs. Henderson, we can talk about this after school. Right now, I have 41 students to teach. Sarah Henderson opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Whispers spread through the room. She had either just won her place here or lost it for good. My Sarah Ann can stay, the woman finally said. But I will be watching you, Miss Reed. I would expect nothing less. Elizabeth turned back to the board. Now, let us start with the alphabet. The day was a storm of names, lessons, and managed noise. Elizabeth found that teaching 41 children of all different ages, teaching these children required her to be a lecturer, a peacekeeper, and a magician. By 3 o'clock, her voice was gone and her feet were screaming. As the children left, a boy named Thomas hung back. Miss Reed, he mumbled, thank you for not leaving and for ignoring Mrs. Henderson. Most folks don't. She gave him a tired smile. I'm here to teach, Thomas. The rest is just background noise. When he was gone, Elizabeth collapsed into her chair, feeling the weight of her first day. A knock at the door brought James Jim Harrison, hat in hand. I heard you had a full morning. She laughed, the sound surprising her. Word gets around fast. Told you it would. He came in holding a basket. Maria sent some provisions. Says a working woman needs to be fed right. The basket held fresh bread, cheese, and apples. Please tell her thank you for me. You can tell her yourself. You're invited for Sunday dinner. He paused. "If you're willing to risk what's left of your reputation." "Mr. Harrison," she said, meeting his eyes, "if I worried about my reputation, I would have stayed in Boston. What time should I come?" He looked at her a little differently then. "It might have been respect. 2 o'clock. I will send a wagon. I can walk. It is a good 8 miles. I have legs. Miss Reed, you are the most stubborn woman I have ever met." "Thank you," she smiled. "I will take that as a compliment." "It was meant as one." He turned to go, then stopped. "The children, what is your opinion of them?" Her throat felt tight. "I think they are brilliant and hungry to learn, and whoever told them they were unteachable should be deeply ashamed." "That would be Miss Pritchard. She lasted all of 63 days, James said, his voice flat. "You planning to stay longer?" "I will stay as long as these children need me," she said, standing to face him. "I did not come here for an easy life. I came here to matter. Those children matter." He watched her for a long moment. "You truly mean that?" "Why does everyone act surprised when I say what I mean?" "Because most people say what is safe," he said, settling his hat on his head. "You say what is true." After he left, Elizabeth ate from the basket, watching the town settle in for the night. She saw people point at the schoolhouse. Some just shook their heads. She saw Sarah Henderson talking with others, her hands slicing the air in anger. Elizabeth paid them no mind. The next few days fell into a rhythm. The students were eager. She taught until she was hoarse, and the town gossiped. On Thursday, a note on the door told her to go back east. She used it to start the fire. On Friday, half of her supplies were stolen. Thomas found her, her hands shaking with rage. "It was probably the Jenkins boys," he said softly. "Their pa doesn't want them in school." "Then they are about to learn that you cannot steal an education," Elizabeth declared. "We will share what we have. We will write in the dirt if we must." "You are not giving up?" "Thomas, I have been told by far better men to leave. I am still here. Unless you want me to go?" "No, ma'am." His voice was strong. "You are the first teacher who ever looked at us like we were somebody." "That is because you are." Sunday arrived bright and clear, and Elizabeth's nerves were pulled tight. She put on her best dress and waited for the wagon. It arrived at 2 o'clock sharp, but a young ranch hand named Charlie was driving. "Mr. Harrison sends his apologies, ma'am. He is dealing with some fence cutters." The ride was nice, and when they arrived, Maria swept Elizabeth inside. "Child, you are too thin. Sit down. I have made enough food to feed an army." The table was heavy with roasted chicken, potatoes, and 3 different kinds of pie. "Mrs. Hernandez, this is too much." "Nonsense. You need strength for dealing with those town gossips," Maria said, pouring coffee. "I heard about Sarah Henderson. That woman has more mouth than sense." "She is just concerned for her daughter." "She is concerned about her position," Maria corrected. "You are a threat to her, Miss Reed. You are educated, you are independent, and you do not need a man. That terrifies women like Sarah." Elizabeth thought on that while she sipped her coffee. "I am not trying to threaten anyone." "It does not matter what you are trying to do," Maria said, her face softening. "But you have allies. Those children already adore you. Thomas Yates told everyone you are the best teacher he has ever had. I am the only one who has stayed," Elizabeth replied. "Exactly." The front door opened, and James's angry voice filled the house. "Maria, I swear if one more—" He stopped short when he saw Elizabeth. "Miss Reed, you are here. You invited me." He looked dusty and worn, and there was blood on his sleeve. "Give me 5 minutes." "Mr. Harrison, you are bleeding." "It is nothing, just some fence wire." He swayed, and Maria was on her feet. "Sit down before you fall over. Miss Reed, the medical kit is in the kitchen." Elizabeth moved without thinking. By the time she returned, Maria was cutting his sleeve away from a deep gash on his forearm. "This needs stitches," Elizabeth stated. "It will heal faster with them." She got a needle and thread and set water to boil. "Mrs. Hernandez, can you hold the lamp closer?" Maria did. her eyes wide with surprise. You know medicine? My father was a doctor. He believed a woman should know the basics. He sucked in a breath, but held steady while she stitched him up. What happened? 3 fellas were cutting my fence. They tore it up pretty good before they ran. His jaw was a hard line. That is the 3rd time this month. Why? They want the land, or they are just plain mean. She tied off the last stitch. Out here it could be anything. She wrapped the cut. You need to rest. Cannot. The ranch will not run itself. Call me James. If you are patching me up, it is James. She met his gaze. James. He nodded toward the dining room. Maria's cooking will get cold. Dinner was a welcome change. Maria told old ranch stories that had Elizabeth laughing hard, and James filled in the details. Maria asked her over pie why she left Boston. My father passed 2 years ago. He left me his books and enough money to stand on my own. But I was expected to marry and fast. The men who came calling cared more for my father's library than for me. So I looked for teaching jobs out west. Silver Creek called first. My mother died when I was 8, so it was always just us. James's look softened. That must have been tough. It was. But he taught me living is about making a difference. And that is what I want to do. You already are, Maria said. You have given those kids hope. After James showed her the ranch, they walked slow, the big Texas sky filling up with stars. He was a good man. Stubborn and brilliant, she said with a smile. You two would have gotten along. He grinned. Because I am the same? Exactly. At a fence overlooking the valley, he turned to her. Can I ask you something? You can ask. No promises on an answer. Fair enough. Why a teacher? With your schooling, you could do anything. She thought about a simple lie, but the evening felt too honest for that. My father healed people's bodies. I wanted to heal their minds. I saw too many children in Boston whose futures were decided by who their family was. I wanted to prove a woman could do more than just plan parties. You do not have to prove that to me, I know. And that makes you different. Most men are threatened by a woman with a mind of her own. He stepped closer. I am curious about who wrecked your coach and is stealing your supplies, and if you will stay when it gets tougher. It is already tough. This is just the start. Some folks here want their kids to learn. Others want things to stay the same. You are change. I am just teaching reading. Same thing to them. He smiled a little. They will keep pushing. The question is, will you push back? I have been told my whole life what I cannot do. I am not about to stop now. Good. He brushed his hand against hers. I would like to help. Her breath hitched at the simple touch. Why? I believe in what you are doing. And I cannot recall meeting a woman who speaks her mind so plainly. A panicked shout cut him off. Boss, fire in the south pasture. James was already moving. How bad? Bad, and the wind is picking up. He told his man to get everyone for a fire break. Turning to her, he said, I have to go, I can help. No, I will have Charlie take you to town. I am not leaving. Her voice was firm. I can haul water or dig. I am not helpless. He looked at her a long second, then nodded. Get her some work clothes. He was already running. Thank you. The next 4 hours were pure hell. She hauled water, dug ditches, and beat at flames with wet sacks. The wind fought them every step, trying to take everything James owned. Maria was like a general, shouting orders. Elizabeth saw James in the middle of it all, fighting for his land. By midnight, it was over. The south pasture was lost, but the ranch was safe. Elizabeth dropped to the ground, exhausted and covered in soot. James sat beside her, just as filthy. You are crazy. You are welcome, she managed. Anyone hurt? Just a few burns. We got lucky, he paused. This was no accident. Someone set this fire. She went cold. You are sure? We found kerosene cans. His voice was full of rage. Someone wants me wiped out, the same person who cut your fence, I reckon. Then we fight back, she said, pushing herself up. We find them. He stared at her. We? You helped me. Now I will help you. That is what friends do. Is that what we are? I do not know what we are, she said, but I am not leaving you to handle this alone. His hand found hers. You are really something. Maria's voice broke in. Get inside, both of you, before you fall over. They walked to the house, his hand still holding hers. She knew she should let go, but she could not. Inside, Maria had food and hot water waiting. Elizabeth washed the grime from her face. When she looked up, he was watching her. You missed a spot. He gently wiped a smudge of soot from her cheek. The touch made her breath catch. Maria ordered them to eat before they collapsed. They ate without a word, too tired for talk. But her mind was racing. His ranch, her coach. It had to be connected. It had to be Reeves. It has to be Reeves, James said through his teeth. Maria's face hardened. That snake? I thought he had left the territory for good. Who is Reeves with us? Elizabeth asked, still working. Marcus Reeves owns the land next to mine, James explained. He's been trying to buy me out for 3 years. Every time I refuse, something bad happens. Why does he want your land? Water rights. My ranch has the only good water for 50 miles. His cattle operation will fail without it. James's jaw was tight. But I am not selling. My father built this ranch from nothing, and I will die before I give it to Reeves. A chill went through Elizabeth. You think he set the fire? I know he did. I just cannot prove it, James said. And I would bet your coach accident was his doing too. He rants about educated women from the East upsetting the natural order. The natural order where women are quiet and obedient, Elizabeth finished for him. Exactly, Maria said, standing suddenly. This is bigger than land. If he's willing to do all that, he's willing to hurt people. She looked right at Elizabeth. You need to be careful, child. I am not afraid of Marcus Reeves. Then you should be. James's voice was sharp. The man is dangerous. You standing up for these children makes you a target. Her stomach clenched. He used children in his silver mine, and James warned she was a threat to his whole operation. Good, she said, standing tall despite her exhaustion. Then I am doing my job. James told her Reeves plays dirty, but she was furious. He will have to go through me to get to those children. James pleaded for her to be careful, his hand finding hers. It felt protective. She promised caution, but swore she would not stop teaching. Maria sent her to get some sleep. Elizabeth woke to arguing and came downstairs to find James facing Marcus Reeves himself. He gave her a cold smile, insulting her Boston education and her work teaching children to read above their station. I am teaching them to read, period, she said. Reeves called her naive and full of Eastern ideals. He turned to James and offered to buy his water rights again. James told him to get off his land. Reeves smiled, warning that accidents can happen, especially with a lady around. After he left, she was shaking. James pulled her back. Now you have seen the enemy. He is dangerous. James explained she was a symbol of change that Reeves could not control, making them both targets now. He said they had to be careful with appearances for the sake of the school. He did not care about his own reputation, only hers. The town's support was crucial. They agreed to be discreet, making her heart ache. Back at school, she found the whole town was talking. By noon, 6 students had been withdrawn by their mothers. At 3 o'clock, Reverend Grayson arrived with the school board. They confronted her about her conduct, spending the night at a bachelor's ranch. She explained she helped fight a fire, but they only spoke of proper decorum. She accused them of being influenced by Marcus Reeves. They defended him as a pillar of the community. He is a bully who uses children, she shot back. They put her on probation, giving her 2 weeks to save her job. After they left, she felt true fear. But then Thomas and her other students appeared in the doorway. We are not leaving. We ain't leaving, Mary said again. Even if our folks try to stop us, we will be here. That is mighty brave, but you taught us to do what is right. Lin Chen's voice was soft, but solid as a rock. You are what is right. So we are standing up. Elizabeth felt her throat get tight. Your parents are not going to like this one bit. We do not care. Thomas crossed his arms. You stayed when they all said you would run. Now it is our turn to stay. The next couple of weeks were a flat-out war. Elizabeth taught through all the ugliness and the threats, lying awake at night and wondering if this was the fight that would finally break her. Students came and went as their parents gave in to fear. But her core group, 28 kids who refused to back down, came to school every single day. James stayed out of the public eye, but he left food on her doorstep every few nights. No notes, just supplies, and one time a book she had mentioned wanting. Elizabeth tried to ignore the way her heart jumped when she found them. The night before the big meeting, a rock came crashing through her window with a note tied to it. Last warning, it said, "Leave or else." She just swept up the glass, hung a blanket over the hole, and went to bed with her daddy's old Remington under her pillow. She woke up to someone pounding on her door. "Fire, Miss Reed! The school is on fire!" She ran through the dark streets and saw the schoolhouse swallowed by flames. Half the town was there, but it was already too late. It was too late. The school was gone. Elizabeth just stood there watching it all burn to ash. Her books, the benches, everything. James came up beside her, covered in soot. "Thank God you are safe." Her voice was a hollow whisper. "It is all gone. We can rebuild." "Or is this just what Reeves wanted?" she shot back. "No school, more workers for his mine." James's jaw was set like stone. "We will rebuild. I will pay for it myself. It ain't about money. It is them." She motioned to the crowd. "They think I had this coming. Then they are fools." "They are the school board," she said, feeling something inside her crack. "Maybe I should just go back east." "Do not you finish that," he said, grabbing her shoulders. "You ain't quittin'. Give me one reason to stay. Those kids need you. This town needs you." He pulled her closer. "And I need you." Amid the fire and shouting, her world burned. But only his words registered. "I know this is fast," he said, "but I have never known anyone like you. You are stubborn and you fight for what is right. You make me want to be a better man. So please, do not leave." Tears streamed down her face from the smoke or something else. "I cannot rebuild," she whispered. "No building, no board." "Then we will teach at my ranch, or in the street." His voice was raw. "But we do not quit, ever." "We?" "That is right, we. You think I am leaving you to handle this alone? You are stuck with me, Elizabeth Reed." A small smile broke through. She should have pulled back, worried about her reputation. Instead, she kissed him. The fire, the shouts, her ruined life, none of it mattered. Only his arms around her, the feeling of being truly seen. When they parted, she was breathless. That was highly improper. "Yep, they saw. I will lose my job for sure. Almost guaranteed." He grinned. "Worth it." She took half a second to think. "Absolutely." Then a voice cut in. "Well now, ain't that touchin'?" Marcus Reeves stood there smirking. "A little romance in the ruins." James shielded her. "You did this. Can you prove it?" Reeves chuckled. "Such bad timing, too. Right before the board meets to discuss a woman's stability." "You son of a—" James moved, but she held him back. "Do not. It is what he wants." She faced Reeves herself. "Burn the building, Mr. Reeves. Turn this town against me. But you will not stop me from teaching. I will teach in a tent if I have to." "Brave talk. We will see how you feel after the vote tomorrow." He tipped his hat. "Enjoy watching your future burn." As he left, she fought the urge to scream. She turned to the townsfolk instead. "I know what you're all thinking, that this is my fault." Her voice rang out. "Maybe so. But I also brought hope, a chance for your children to be more than just cheap labor." A woman shouted, "You brought scandal to this town." "Did I?" Elizabeth countered, pointing toward the mines. "Or did I just shine a light on the scandal of children working underground while men like Reeves get rich?" That is the real shame. You do not get our ways. I get that every child deserves a chance, and that some men profit by keeping you ignorant." Her voice was shaking but strong. "So fire me for being a woman with an opinion. But first, ask yourselves who really wins if your children cannot read, you or Marcus Reeves." A quiet fell over the crowd. Then young Thomas pushed forward. "Miss Reed is the best teacher we have ever had. She taught us we could be somebody." He faced the adults. "And you want to fire her for that? That is just plain stupid." "Thomas!" his father barked, his face flush with anger. "No, Pa. It is the truth. She changed my life." "She changed all our lives," Thomas said, turning back to her. "We are with you, Miss Reed." Then, one by one, all 28 of her students came forward. They stood between her and the burning school, a small but determined line. "We are with her," they all echoed. Tears filled Elizabeth's eyes. She had come here to fight alone, and now an army of children stood with her. James squeezed her hand. "Told you they needed you." "I need them," she whispered back. Looking at the ruins and then at the faces in the crowd, she knew tomorrow would decide it all. But tonight they had proven that people standing together could beat fear. Maria appeared with blankets. "Everyone to the ranch. Nobody is sleeping alone tonight." As the fire died down, James held her hand tight. "You were magnificent," he said softly. "I was scared to death. Sometimes that is the same thing." He pulled her close. "About what I said, I meant it. Every word." She leaned against him, finally feeling safe. Tomorrow she would face the board and fight for her future. But tonight, in the ashes, she had found someone who truly saw her for the stubborn, fierce woman she was. "I meant it too," she whispered. "When I kissed you." He smiled into her hair. "Good, because I plan on doing it again long as we make it through tomorrow." "We will make it." She said it with more certainty than she felt, but with his hand in hers and her students at her back, she almost believed it. The ranch house was packed tight with families, their parents whispering nervously. Elizabeth could not sleep. She watched the dawn break, knowing that in a few hours, 4 men would decide her fate. "You ought to get some rest," James said, appearing with 2 cups of coffee. "It is going to be a long day." "I cannot. My mind will not stop spinning." Elizabeth took the coffee he offered. "I keep thinking about what to say, how to defend myself, but every word sounds hollow when you're looking at a burned-down building." "The kiss was my idea." "No, it was both of us." Elizabeth looked him in the eye. "I do not regret it, James, no matter what it costs me. You might feel different after the meeting, or I might not." She sipped the coffee. "My father always said that the only real way to fail is to quit before the fight is over. I am not quitting." "Good, because I have got some news that might just help." James pulled a folded paper out of his pocket. "Charlie found this by the school. Must have been dropped during the fire." Elizabeth unfolded it. It was a bill for a whole lot of kerosene, bought by Mr. Reeves's company just 3 days earlier. Her hands started to shake. "This will not prove anything in court. Anyone could have bought it." James looked grim. "But it is something. It shows a pattern." "It is still not enough," she said, feeling hope and frustration pulling at her. "Reeves has money for fancy lawyers, unless we can get him to confess." She looked up at him. "How? I am working on it." James would not meet her eyes, and a cold knot formed in Elizabeth's stomach. "What are you planning to do?" "Nothing you need to worry about." "About James Jim Harrison." "If you are fixing to do something dangerous, Elizabeth," he took her face in his hands, "you have to trust me. Just get through that meeting. You keep fighting and I will take care of Reeves. I do not want you handling anything by yourself. That is how folks get hurt. And I do not want you to lose your job on account of me." James's thumb brushed her cheek. Let me do this for you. For those kids. Elizabeth wanted to keep arguing, but Maria's voice cut in. Breakfast in 10 minutes. Everybody up. We have got a battle to win today. The kitchen turned into organized chaos. Maria ran it like a general, telling students to set tables and mothers to help cook. Elizabeth found herself cracking eggs right next to women who had been her enemies just the day before. Sarah Henderson was working the stove next to her, and the silence between them was thick. Finally, Sarah spoke. My daughter cried herself to sleep last night. She said you were the first teacher who ever made her feel smart. Her voice was stiff. She said you believed in her. Elizabeth just kept slicing the bread. Sarah Ann is a smart girl. She just needed someone to notice. I noticed. Sarah stopped and swallowed hard. I just wanted to keep her safe from big ideas, from wanting things she could not have. It seemed kinder that way. That is not being kind. That is giving up. Elizabeth put the knife down and faced her. Your daughter deserves to have big dreams. I told Sarah it's better to have a broken heart from chasing a dream than a broken spirit from giving up. I wasn't sorry for teaching her girl to believe in herself. Tears welled in Sarah's eyes. She admitted she'd voted against me, called me dangerous, but she knew she was dead wrong and promised to tell everyone at the meeting. Breakfast was a happy ruckus. Seeing those kids helping each other, well, that's why I came out here. By 10 o'clock, it was time for the big meeting. I put on my best mended dress trying to settle my stomach. Maria found me and said I looked like I was fixing to go to battle. She told me wars are won by being too stubborn to quit and handed me a satchel. Maria said it held all my proof and that I would win because I was too dang stubborn to lose. The wagon ride with James into town felt like it took forever. He was quiet, looking like a man ready to sacrifice it all. I told him I meant every word I said last night. He said I made him believe in things again, then asked me to promise I would keep teaching no matter what. I grabbed his hand and told him I was not leaving, and neither was he. We were in this together. He finally laughed, calling me impossible. I told him to get used to it. The town hall was packed to the gills with folks standing along the walls. I saw my students up front and Sarah Henderson looking mighty determined. In the back, Marcus Reeves was sitting with a smirk on his face like he already knew the outcome. The school board looked like they would rather be anywhere else. Reverend Grayson started, saying my fitness to teach was in question. But then James stood up and the room got quiet enough to hear a pin drop. He pointed right at Reeves and said he set the fire. Reeves just laughed it off. But James laid it all out, proof of kerosene purchases and witnesses to his men cutting fences. Reeves claimed it was nothing, that he was just a businessman. That is when I stood up. I asked him about sabotaging stagecoaches, and he had the nerve to call me hysterical. That ugly word just hung in the air. But I had my proof, the broken wheel, the notes, and 41 students whose futures he was trying to ruin. I told everyone how Reeves uses children in his dangerous minds, because an education makes folks harder to cheat. He denied it, so I pulled out letters from the families. I read about the terrible conditions and the 12 children who had died in the last 3 years because he was too cheap to pay for safety. The whole room just about exploded. These are sworn statements, I shouted over the noise. I listed everything he had done, from burning buildings to working children to death. Then young Thomas stood up, his voice clear as a bell. He said this was about Silver Creek's future. One by one, all 28 of my students stood, then their parents, a whole room standing in silent support. Dr. Walsh dryly told Reeves he ought to leave. Just as Reeves denied it all, a young man pushed through the crowd. He looked haunted. He said, I set the fire. Mr. Reeves paid me $50 to do it. The room went wild and some ranch hands blocked Reeves from getting to the door. He admitted to busting the fence and wrecking the coach wheel, said they were just pranks, that no one would get hurt. His voice cracked. But that fire. He swore he didn't know folks were sleeping nearby. Didn't know there might be kids. He just couldn't live with that. Reeves made a move for him, but James blocked it, slamming him against the wall. Your time's up. Whatever pull you had in this town is gone. You think one boy's word matters? Reeves sneered. I got money and lawyers. I'll bury y'all. Try me, James's voice was ice cold. But first, you'll tell us why you went after Elizabeth's coach before she even got here. Who told you she was coming? For just a second, Reeves's eyes darted to the board table. It was enough. Elizabeth saw it. Reverend Grayson had turned pale as a ghost. "It can't be. You warned him I was coming." Elizabeth's voice was a whisper. "You all been working together." "It's not like that," Grayson stammered, backing away. "I wanted what was best for this town. Reeves promised money, jobs. All I had to do was keep the teacher job open. By breaking coaches and burning schools," Potter said, disgusted. "By risking lives. I didn't know about the fire, I swear." Grayson was just babbling. "I only told him when teachers were on their way. I thought he'd just run them off. I never dreamed—" "You never dreamed about the children," Sarah Henderson snapped, her voice trembling with anger. "You only thought about what Reeves was paying you." The Reverend just collapsed, sobbing on his knees. Elizabeth watched him, feeling nothing but scorn. This man judged her while selling out kids for cash. Sheriff Davis pushed his way through. Elizabeth hadn't seen him come in. "Marcus Reeves, you're under arrest for a laundry list of crimes. Reverend Grayson, you're coming along too." "This isn't finished," Reeves growled, but the sheriff cut him off. "Oh, it is. I've been building this case for months. I got enough to put you down for 20 years without this." He nodded to his deputies. "Take 'em away." As they were led out in cuffs, the room was dead quiet, save for the Reverend's crying. Then a single person started clapping. And then another. Soon the whole place was applauding. Elizabeth stood there in a daze. She'd done it. Against all odds, she'd won. Potter cleared his throat. "Miss Reed, we were wrong to doubt you. We are truly sorry. We'd be honored if you'd stay on as teacher for Silver Creek, but the school is gone. We'll build a new one, better this time," Samuel Black said with a smile. "We'll use Reeves's money to do it. Seems like justice to me." Elizabeth was at a loss for words. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes," James whispered beside her. "Say you'll stay." She looked at him, the man who believed in her from the start. "On one condition." "What's that?" "The new school takes in any child who wants to learn. No fees, no matter their family. School for everyone." The board members looked at each other, then Dr. Walsh grinned. "Done. Something else?" "Pay me enough to live. I'm through with eating donated bread." That got a chuckle. "We can do that," Potter agreed. "Do we have a deal, Miss Reed?" She thought of the stuffy life she'd left, then of the children here, learning to believe in themselves. "Yes," she said. "We have a deal." The room erupted once more. Kids and parents swarmed her with hugs and handshakes. Folks who'd called her names now called her a hero. Elizabeth let it all wash over her, laughing and crying all at once. Across the room she saw James watching her, his face full of pride and tenderness. That night, after the town celebrated, she was back on the ranch porch. Maria had cooked a feast, but Elizabeth couldn't eat, her mind still turning over the day's events. The weight of it all was heavy. "You're thinking too hard," James said, joining her. "I can hear you from inside." She told him she was thinking about the boy Reeves had paid. "He's not much older than my students. What'll happen to him?" "The sheriff's going easy. The kid told the truth and feels bad for what he did." "He'll be all right," James said. "One mistake don't have to define a person. Is that how you see people, as more than their worst choices?" "I try to." He turned to her. "Elizabeth, about today. I knew the Reverend was tied up with Reeves. Me and the sheriff have been looking into it for months. That's why I was so protective. I knew Reeves would come after you." James ran a hand through his hair. "I should have told you what you were walking into." "Would I have come if you did?" she asked. "Honestly?" "Yes, you're too damn stubborn to be scared off." Elizabeth had to laugh. "You're right, I would have." "James, you saved my life. You saved your own life. I was just backup. Still, I owe you. You don't owe me a thing." He took her hands in his. "Elizabeth, I didn't help you to be thanked. I helped because from that first moment I saw you pointing a gun at my chest, I knew you were different. You were someone worth fighting for." Her breath hitched. "James, please," he said, "let me finish. I spent 6 years building this ranch, thinking that was all there was. Then you showed up and turned it all upside down. You made me want things I thought I'd given up on. A partner, a real future. What are you saying? I'm saying I love you, Elizabeth Reed. I know it's fast, but I've never been more sure about anything. You don't have to say it back. I just had to tell you. She just stared, her heart hammering in her chest. She thought about every single step that brought her here, to this man who saw her for exactly who she was. I'm terrified, she whispered. Of what? Of how much I feel for you, and how fast it all is. I came here to be on my own, and now you're still on your own. You'll always be, James said, cupping her face. That's who you are. Loving me doesn't change that. It just means you don't have to go it alone. She remembered her father's words, that being alive was more than just getting by. For the first time, she thought maybe she deserved to be loved. I love you too. The words were barely there. Lord, help me. I love you too. His smile was like the dawn. He pulled her in and kissed her, so tender it made her weak in the knees. She kissed him back with everything she had. When they broke apart, breathless, he rested his forehead against hers. Marry me. Elizabeth pulled back, shocked. What? Marry me. I know it's a crazy thing to ask. I know we ought to wait, but I don't want to. I want to wake up with you every day. I want to help you teach those kids. James grinned and said he wanted to build a life with me, right here in this wild country. He teased that it would make me respectable. I told him if he thought that is why I would marry him, he had another think coming. He got serious then, saying he was not asking me to change a thing, just to let him stand by my side. This felt different. This was a partnership. I said yes, but on one condition, that I keep teaching no matter what. He swore he would not have it any other way, then lifted me up and spun me around. Just then, Maria showed up with a bottle of wine, saying it was about time we stopped beating around the bush. The engagement was the real deal. They celebrated deep into the night. Maria gave a toast to their future, and the ranch hands all congratulated them. Elizabeth felt dizzy with happiness and the crazy fact that she had found love in a place like this. Later, as she lay in the guest room bed, she tried to make sense of it all. She had come to Silver Creek with a simple plan to teach and prove her worth. She had almost lost everything, nearly driven out by hate and lies. But instead, she had won. She had exposed a corrupt man, saved her job, and found a partner who believed in her all the way. It felt like some kind of miracle. Tomorrow, she would start planning the new school. Tomorrow, she would figure out how to keep teaching while it was being built. But tonight, she just let herself be happy and loved, and the person she had always wanted to be. Elizabeth Reed, a school teacher, a fighter, and soon the wife of a stubborn rancher who saw her heart and loved it anyway, did. The morning came way too early. Elizabeth woke to sunlight and the sound of hammers already at work. She got dressed, the idea of her engagement still feeling like a dream, and found the kitchen buzzing with life. You are finally awake, Maria said, handing her a cup of coffee, without even looking up from the bread she was kneading. James left 2 hours ago to start clearing the land at the old school. He said something about wanting the foundation all ready before you could change your mind about marrying him. Elizabeth almost choked on her coffee. He really thinks I will change my mind. Men are idiots, even the good ones. Maria just smiled. He is nervous. You make him nervous. It is kind of cute. I make him nervous. You are the first thing he has wanted more than this ranch in 6 years. That is a terrifying thing for a man like James. Maria dusted the flour off her hands. Now you eat something. You have a school to plan and a wedding to organize, and you cannot do either one on an empty stomach. Elizabeth got about 3 bites of toast down before Thomas showed up at the door, all out of breath. Miss Reed, you have got to come fast. Mr. Potter is down at the school site, and he is arguing with James about where to build. She ran past the barn and into town where a crowd was already watching the show. James was standing toe-to-toe with Potter, and both of them were waving their arms around. It has got to be bigger, James was saying. Elizabeth has 41 students, and that number is only going to grow. We cannot just rebuild it the same size. The budget will not allow for bigger. We have only got so much money. even with the assets we took from Reeves. Potter's face was red. Be reasonable, Harrison. I am being reasonable. You are being cheap. Jack saw Elizabeth, and his whole face changed. Tell him. Tell him you need more space. Elizabeth looked over the burned ground, doing some quick math in her head. Mr. Potter, how much could the budget stretch if we offered to provide volunteer labor? All the ranch hands, parents, and folks from the community. Potter thought about it. That depends on how much labor. The materials are the main cost. What if I told you we could double the number of workers? Elizabeth turned to the crowd. How many of you would be willing to donate your time to build a proper school, one that can serve every single child in Silver Creek? Hands went up one by one and then in bunches. Fathers, mothers, even some of the older couples. Sarah Henderson stepped right up. I will get the women organized. We can provide meals for all the workers and help with the lighter jobs. Her voice was firm. My daughter deserves a real school. All our children do. Potter looked completely overwhelmed. This is highly irregular. So was everything else that has happened here. Dr. Walsh stepped out of the crowd. I will donate medical supplies for when people get hurt building, and I will match Potter's budget contribution myself. As will I, Samuel Black called out. The general store can provide all the materials at cost. Elizabeth felt her throat tighten up. Thank you, all of you. Do not thank us yet, James grinned. We have got a building to raise. Potter, do we have a deal or not? Potter threw his hands up like he was surrendering. Fine, double the size. But if this goes over budget, it is coming out of your pockets, not the town's. Done. James turned to Elizabeth, looking mighty satisfied. Very. She wanted to kiss him right there, but she just gave him a smile that made his eyes shine. When do we start? A voice called out. James answered. Tomorrow at dawn. If you can swing a hammer, be here. He told the crowd. We're building a school that will stand for 100 years. Who is with me? A roar went up that made Elizabeth's heart swell. This town, which had fought her at every turn, was now helping build her dream. Later, a knock came at her boarding house door. A well-dressed woman with nervous hands stood there. Miss Reed, I'm Margaret Wilson. My daughter, Emma. She is different. The old teacher called her hopeless. But I heard you believe every child deserves a chance. Elizabeth felt her heart ache for them. Where is she? Outside, please bring her in, Elizabeth said. Emma was a timid girl who kept her eyes on the floor. Elizabeth knelt down to her level. Hello, Emma. My name is Elizabeth. I'm a teacher. For a moment, the girl's eyes met hers. For a moment, Elizabeth saw the smart girl hiding behind all that fear. She told Emma's mother to bring her to class tomorrow morning. I can't read, the girl whispered. That is why I am here, Elizabeth said gently. To teach you. There is no shame in starting from the beginning. Margaret's eyes welled up. You really mean it? I never waste my words. Later, Elizabeth wept with a sense of purpose for all the children told they were not enough. She was right where she needed to be. As promised, construction began at sunrise. While she taught, the steady sound of hammers was a song of progress. In the afternoon, she hauled lumber until her body ached. James worked like a man on fire, and Elizabeth would just lose her train of thought watching him. Maria caught her looking one day and let out a laugh. Honey, you are allowed to look. Y'all are fixin' to get married after all. I was not looking, Elizabeth lied poorly. Maria just smiled. Don't you dare put your own life on hold for this school, she warned with a kind voice. It will get built. You deserve some happiness too. That evening, Elizabeth went to find James at the work site. We need to set a date, she said straight out. He turned, looking surprised. For the wedding, she confirmed. Maria's right. Later never seems to get here. I want to marry you, James. Soon. How soon is soon? 2 weeks, she decided. The school frame ought to be up by then. He pulled her in close. There is not a single thing small about you, but yes. 2 weeks. I would marry you in the street if you wanted. The whole town will want to be there. He grinned. Then let them come, she said, kissing him. I am done being sorry for being happy. The next week was a blur of teaching and wedding plans. Maria took charge of getting her a dress. The whole community was helping out, and things felt like they were going too well. Elizabeth should have known better. 8 days before the wedding, a telegram arrived. Her hands shook as she ran to show James. "We have a problem. Reeves is out on bail." The hammer dropped from James's hand. "That is impossible." "How?" "His lawyers found some tricks," she explained. "The sheriff warns he has been making threats." James's face hardened. "If he comes anywhere near you, he is a dead man." He pulled her away from the others. "You are not staying in town by yourself. You are moving to the ranch until this is over. I can't just leave my students. Charlie can drive you in for school, but you will not be a target at night. Please, Elizabeth, let me keep you safe." The memory of Reeves's cold eyes made her agree. "All right, I will move to the ranch." While she and Charlie loaded the wagon, a figure stepped out from the shadows. Elizabeth's hand went right to her pistol. "Easy, Miss Reed. It is just me." It was the young man who had set the fire. "I need to warn you. Reeves came to see me. He knows about the wedding, and he is planning something for that day." The boy's voice shook. "He said he would make you regret ever coming here. He tried to pay me to stay quiet, but I told him where to go. I owe you, Miss Reed. You showed me kindness." He then gave her one last piece of bad news. "He is not working by himself. Somebody in this town is helping him." The ride to the ranch was heavy with silence. A traitor. The thought burned. James met them with a grim look. "We are locking this place down tight. Nobody gets on this land." "This is a wedding, not a war," she whispered. "It is both now," he said, pulling her close. "But we are going to win." The next 5 days were pure torture. Elizabeth taught with armed ranch hands standing guard outside. She smiled for the children, while fear ate at her insides. Then, 2 days before the wedding, shy Emma Wilson stood and recited the whole alphabet. The class cheered, and Elizabeth cried with joy. For just a moment, everything felt right. That night, she found James on the porch. "Maybe we ought to postpone this," he said, his voice heavy. "Wait until Reeves is back behind bars." "No," Elizabeth's voice was steady. "We have put off our happiness long enough. He does not get to control our lives. If he wants to try something, let him. We will be ready." James just stared at her with admiration. "You are fearless." "I am terrified," she admitted, taking his hand. "But I am also done running." The day before the wedding, the new school frame stood finished, a promise of the future. That evening, Maria poured Elizabeth a glass of wine. "How are you feeling, child?" "Like I am about to jump off a cliff." "That is love for you," Maria said with a smile. "Terrifying and wonderful all at once. Your father would be so proud of what you have built." Elizabeth wished he could be there to see it. But she could not sleep that night. She thought about Reeves, about a traitor she could not name, and all the ways things could go wrong. She finally went downstairs to find James there, also wide awake. They sat holding hands in the quiet kitchen. "Having second thoughts?" he asked her. "About marrying you?" "Never." "About surviving tomorrow?" "Constantly." "We will survive. We always do," he promised her. "Elizabeth, loving you is the best thing I have ever done. You changed my life. You changed mine too," she said. They sat that way in the dark until the sun started to rise, and Maria came in to shoo James away. Bad luck to see the bride. Her wedding day. "Out you go," Maria said, pushing James toward the door. "It is her wedding day in 2 hours. Go on now." The morning was a happy blur. Soon Elizabeth was in her cream gown with Dr. Walsh offering his arm. "Ready to become Mrs. Harrison?" Elizabeth took a deep breath. "Ready." The church was packed. As she walked down the aisle, her eyes met James's. He was waiting for her, looking handsome and nervous. The ceremony began just as they had planned. Elizabeth finally began to relax, thinking Reeves must have been bluffing. That is when the church doors slammed open. Marcus Reeves stood there with 2 armed men. His face was bruised, but he was smiling. "Sorry to interrupt," he said. But this marriage cannot happen. Miss Catherine Reed is wanted for theft in Boston. There is a warrant for her arrest. The church erupted in gasps. Her world tilt. That is a lie, she said. You stole your father's library, Reeves sneered. Books worth thousands of dollars. You are a criminal, Miss Reed, a thief. My father left me those books in his will. A will the court ruled against. These are United States Marshals. You are under arrest. One of the men stepped forward and showed his badge. It was real. Ma'am, you need to come with us. James moved between them. She is not going anywhere. James, stop. Elizabeth's voice was surprisingly calm. She stepped around him. You made this up. It is real, Reeves said with a wicked smile. You lose everything. Elizabeth turned to the marshal. May I please see the warrant? After a moment, he handed it to her. She read it, her hand steady. Then she began to laugh. What is so funny? Reeves demanded. This warrant is for Elizabeth Ann Reed. I am Elizabeth Reed. Wrong person. Wrong address, wrong everything. The marshal's face turned red. But Mr. Reeves told us. Mr. Reeves is a liar facing trial for arson. Elizabeth's voice was strong. He made this up to stop my wedding. Sheriff Davis came up from the back of the church. Marshal, I think you have been had. Reeves, you are going back to jail. Reeves pulled a gun from his coat. Nobody is taking me anywhere. James moved like a flash, tackling Reeves as the gun fired into the ceiling. As people screamed, Elizabeth saw the second man, just a hired gun, raise his pistol toward James. She did not even think. She grabbed a heavy candlestick from the altar and threw it with all her might. It hit the gunman's head and he dropped instantly. The sheriff and his deputies grabbed Reeves. In seconds it was over. The sheriff looked at Elizabeth, impressed. Nice throw, Miss Reed. An armed man. You are insane. He was going to shoot you. Still insane, James said with a grin. Bravest thing I have ever seen. The minister cleared his throat. If we are quite finished with all the excitement, we have a wedding to complete. Elizabeth laughed. Yes, please, let us get married. The rest of the ceremony was perfect. James's hands shook a little as he put the ring on her finger. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, the whole church cheered. The reception was at the ranch, with more food than anyone could imagine. As the sun set, Elizabeth watched her students playing in the yard. Emma was teaching the younger children a game. James came up beside her with 2 glasses of champagne. What are you thinking about? He asked. About how far we have come, and how I was so terrified that first night I pointed a gun at you. Best night of my life, James said, clinking his glass against hers. I met the woman who changed everything. I did not change anything, she started. You changed this town, these kids, and me, James said firmly. You taught this town not to fear change. And you taught me that love makes you stronger. Elizabeth felt tears in her eyes. You are going to make me cry. Good tears, I hope. The very best, she said, and kissed him. Just then Maria hurried over with a telegram. This just arrived. Elizabeth read it, then let out a yell of pure joy. What is it? James asked. It is the territorial governor. He is giving us full funding for the school. A bigger budget, housing, supplies, everything. She could not stop smiling. The whole town celebrated their brand new school. Under the stars, James pulled her close. He said she showed him how to let folks in, and she told him the same thing. Every hard road led them right here. His voice got thick when he said, I love you. She kissed him and whispered, This is home now. You're home. That party went on until sunrise. The town that fought her now held her dear. She had shown up with nothing but grit and faced down every threat. She won by staying true to who she was. In 3 months, she'd teach those children more than books. She would teach them about their own strength. She found her purpose in that little school and in his love. The land had tested her, and she came out of it stronger. She was a fighter who blazed her own trail. Holding James and hearing the kids laugh, she knew this was only the beginning. Being her own stubborn, brave self was always more than enough. One lesson, one hard-won victory at a time. Their love was never perfect, never easy, but it was real, built through hardship, tested by danger, and strengthened by trust. This channel tells stories of the Wild West, where cowboys, love, family bonds, and human compassion come alive in every tale. The meaning behind this story reminds us that true love doesn't take away your strength. It amplifies it. It doesn't cage you, it sets you free. If you believe in stories like this, support us with a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe so you never miss the next journey. All elements within this narrative are fictional and crafted for storytelling purposes. The author bears no intention of referencing real people, cultures, or events in a literal sense. Readers are encouraged to engage with the work as a piece of creative expression rather than documented reality.
Out here in the wide, unforgiving lands of the West, stories are not just told, they are lived, carved into the dust, written in sweat, in tears, and sometimes in fire. And what we've just witnessed is more than the tale of a schoolteacher and a rancher. It's the story of what happens when a single human being refuses to bend, refuses to be silenced, and chooses, again and again, to stand for something greater than fear. She came to the frontier believing she had to face the world alone. Like many of us, she carried the weight of proving herself, of fighting expectations, of building a life on her own terms. And she did. She fought through danger, through doubt, through judgment and betrayal. But what she discovered along the way is something deeper, something the West has always known. Strength is not just about standing alone. True strength is knowing when to stand together. In Jax, she didn't find someone to rescue her. She found someone who saw her, who respected her fire, and who chose to walk beside her, not ahead of her. That kind of love, the kind that doesn't cage you, doesn't diminish you, but lifts you higher, that's rare. And it reminds us that love, when it's real, doesn't take away your independence. It gives it room to grow. But this story is not only about love, it's about purpose. She didn't just teach children how to read, she taught them how to believe. She stood in front of a town that doubted her, in front of forces that tried to break her, and she said, "No more." And because she stood firm, others found the courage to stand with her. That is the quiet, powerful truth at the heart of this story. One person, standing with conviction, can ignite change in an entire community. We also see the cost of fear and control through men like Reeves, those who build power by keeping others small, uneducated, and afraid. And yet, even in the face of that darkness, truth still rises. Because no matter how strong oppression seems, it cannot stand forever against courage, unity, and the will to do what is right. So what is the lesson this story leaves us with? It tells us that courage is not the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. It tells us that purpose is not handed to us. We build it, choice by choice, action by action. It reminds us that education is not just knowledge, it is freedom, the kind that can break chains no one else can see. And above all, it shows us that love, true, honest, unwavering love, is not a weakness. It is one of the greatest strengths we will ever know. Maybe you're not standing in the Montana wilderness. Maybe your battles look different. But somewhere in your life, there is a moment where you have to decide, do you step back or do you stand firm? Do you stay silent or do you speak? Do you walk away or do you fight for what matters? She chose to fight. She chose to stay. She chose to believe that even in a world that pushed back against her, she still had the right to exist, to teach, to love, and to build something meaningful. And maybe that's the most important truth of all. You don't have to be like anyone else. You don't have to follow the path laid out for you. You just have to be brave enough to choose your own. Because in the end, it's not the wilderness that defines you, it's how you rise within it.